If you are new here, welcome. This channel is where I document learning ranch life, land stewardship, gardening, and also figuring out just how much this family land means to me here in South Texas. If you've been following along for a while, thank you so much for coming back and continuing to support me. This week, I've only made it out to the ranch a couple of days. Most of that time that I have spent out here this week has been clearing the fence line out on that back 40. And no, I'm still not finished. I think I've got about 180 feet left of that 800 yards. Yeah, it was 800 yards, I think. Was it? Yeah, it was half a mile. I'm estimating that I've got about 180 feet left. And at the rate I'm going, that's probably only another maybe 4 hours of work spread out over a few days. Overall, it has not been nearly as exhausting or hard or difficult as I would have thought. So I'm really glad that I've taken on this challenge. Again, I'm not finished, but I am getting there. And I'm going to save that story for another episode because I really want to show y'all the entire project once I have finally made it to the end. So instead, I realized there's actually a lot happening in the garden right now. My first spring and summer garden is starting to wind down, while my first real fall garden is starting to ramp up. And when I started this garden back on March 20th, newsflash, I really didn't know what I was doing. And honestly, I still don't. But I am having fun. I planted some seeds. I copied some of the things that I had watched Dad do over the years. I Googled a lot. And, I have ChatGPT on speed dial. I have asked a lot of questions. One of the joys of filming, 20 yards from the highway. I have asked a lot of questions, and then basically I just started experimenting. Some of the things I tried worked, and some of the things have not. And now, I'm almost 5 months later, I actually know considerably more about gardening on this particular piece of South Texas dirt than I did when I started. But full transparency, I still know pretty much nothing. So I thought this would be a good time to walk you through my garden and talk about what my first garden has actually taught me. Because there are definitely some things I'm going to do differently this fall. And even more things, sorry, he was just getting started and he was loud. Even more things that I'm going to try and change next spring and summer. So let's start with the tomatoes. I still have 17 plants standing. And honestly, considering the South Texas heat we've been having, they look remarkably green and healthy, at least to me. But they have basically stopped doing anything. They're not flowering. They're not setting fruit. They're just standing here. That is, if my bamboo trellises have not felled them. I've spent a lot of time this summer trying to keep these plants alive through some pretty consistent temperatures of 100 degrees and higher. I have watered them. I've pruned them. I've experimented with the shade cloth. And one of the things I've learned is that next year, my tomatoes need more room. I planted these too close together. still too close together, even after transplanting more than half of them to this other side of the garden here. When they're small, that spacing looks ridiculous because there's so much empty dirt between them. And then suddenly they're 3 feet tall and you're wondering why you put them that close to begin with. So next year, I am definitely giving them more breathing room. Another thing that I'm considering changing is my support system. I used 3 bamboo poles around each plant this year. And that system worked until the wind blew really hard. In a strong wind, like today, the entire tomato plant just becomes like a boat sail and pulls the bamboo stakes toward whichever wind, to whichever direction the wind is blowing. And eventually it, pulls the bamboo stakes straight out of the ground. So that experiment is getting a failing grade. I either need to push them further into the ground or find something more substantial to help them. I've been thinking about maybe building something much stronger using T-posts and cattle panels. Some of my favorite YouTubers do it this way. More Than Farmers, if you want to follow them. Shout out. They sandwich their tomato plants with 2 cattle panels and T-posts for support. I'm considering that method because apparently a South Texas tomato trellis needs to be engineered more like a small building. I'm still learning all those codes, but I'm not sold on that idea yet. I'm still a little bit optimistic that I can make these bamboo trellises work. And finally, I really need to brush up on my horned tomato worm hunting skills because I only ever found one and just accidentally stumbled on one of the 5-spotted hawkmoths that they turn into. Even though I bought a black light, I have still only found one. My shade was another experiment. I used 30% shade cloth over about half of my tomato plants this summer. And from what I could physically observe, I do think that it helped. But next summer, I think I'm going to go even stronger and probably maybe try something around 50 or 60% shade cloth. I don't want to eliminate sunlight altogether. I just want to give these plants a little more protection from that brutal afternoon heat. And I might even consider putting up a west wall shade cloth for, that evening sun here as well. So that's another thing this garden has taught me. Sometimes an experiment doesn't have to completely fail to teach you how to make it better. And then there are my Anaheim pepper bushes. This has been a fun experiment because I can literally see the answer standing in front of me. And also because Blaylocks love super spicy food, the hotter, the better. I planted 4 pepper plants out here in the open where I thought they would have more room or plenty of room. And then I planted another pepper plant between these 2 tomato plants right here because I wanted to see what would happen. Well, now I know. The plants with more space are noticeably different from the ones competing over here with the tomato plants. And that's the kind of gardening lesson I love because I don't have to read about it. I can physically stand here and see it with my own eyes. And my Anaheim peppers are finally getting big. Some of them are beginning to ripen up right here on the plants. So while the tomatoes have apparently decided they're on summer vacation, the Anaheim peppers are still out here working. And I'm going to see how they taste after they ripen up on the bush because earlier in the season, I picked a few green ones and I didn't particularly enjoy the taste. They were actually kind of tasteless, and they had zero heat or spice. I mean, I think a bell pepper was spicier than those first Anaheim peppers that I picked. The seed packet did say that they were spicy, so I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm hoping to let this round ripen up on the bush, and we'll see. My onions have been another huge success. I've harvested green onions throughout the season, and they have been incredibly flavorful. But now I need to finish harvesting the remaining onions and clear what is there for what's coming next. And that's probably one of the biggest differences between March and August. Back in March, I was thinking about what I could plant. And now I'm thinking about what comes after that. Where does the next crop go? What needs to come out? What needs to go in? What should I be planting together? And why haven't I started that compost pile yet? What should I absolutely not be planting together? And how do I keep improving this dirt every time I grow something in it? My cardboard and straw experiment, I would say, has been my greatest success out here. I still haven't added the compost layer that I originally intended to add, but even without adding it, the cardboard and straw have done an incredible job at suppressing weeds for me. And maybe even more importantly, for my washing machine, the straw keeps everything clean. You know, after watering or rain, which we haven't had in a while, you know, I'm not out here walking through mud. So I will be continuing this system as I prepare my new fall beds. Cardboard down, straw on top, and eventually compost. I have been talking about building this compost pile for months, and I still haven't done it. But it is coming, you know, along with everything else on my to-do list. It is coming at some point, and hopefully before episode 147. But I basically absolutely want to start producing my own compost, because if I'm going to keep expanding this garden, it makes no sense to throw away the organic material that could eventually go right back into the soil and help improvement. One of the biggest things this garden has taught me has nothing to do with vegetables. It's insects. Earlier this summer, I started finding tomato hornworm damage. And naturally, my first reaction was find the worm, kill the worm, save the tomato. Except then I learned what that giant green caterpillar eventually becomes. A tomato hornworm becomes a 5-spotted hawkmoth. And it's one of the large sphinx moths. And as an adult, it feeds on nectar and can help pollinate flowers. And that sent me down an entirely different rabbit hole, because suddenly this thing that I had classified simply as a pest has another role in the ecosystem. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to be volunteering my 17 tomato plants as an all-you-can-eat hornworm buffet, because they can absolutely destroy a tomato plant, and that's not what I want. But it has made me think differently about them. I'm trying to learn when I actually need to intervene, when I can relocate something, or when I can simply just leave nature alone. Because one of my larger goals out here is to use as few chemicals as reasonably possible. And I'm starting this journey using zero chemicals, pesticides, or fertilizers. And I can't do that successfully if I don't understand what's living in my garden. So moving forward, those horned tomato worms will be relocated to some sacrificial nightshade plants that I'll have going for them. Now we get to talk about the fall garden. I have already started a lot of my seeds. And this is probably where I'm noticing the biggest change in myself. The first time I planted this garden, I mostly thought, what do I want to grow? Now I'm thinking about spacing, sun and shade, timing, soil health, water, companion plants, pollinators, succession planning, which I didn't even know what that was called 5 months ago, what worked before, and what I don't want to repeat. I am preparing beds now instead of waiting until I need them. And I'm also starting my seeds ahead of time. I am actually trying to have a plan instead of, starting behind the 8 ball like I did for my spring garden. I also recently went to the great outdoors nursery in Austin with my Uncle Gary, and I may have bought a few seeds. Okay, I bought a shit ton of seeds. One packet that I'm especially excited about is crimson clover. Not just because that's a really good song from the 70s, but because I've been wanting to experiment with cover crops because I don't want every empty garden block out here just to sit here, bare dirt between growing seasons. Crimson clover is a cool season annual legume. And rather than growing it primarily for something I'm going to harvest and then eat, I'm growing it for what it can potentially do for the soil. It provides living ground cover. It adds organic material, notably nitrogen. And because it's a legume, it can work with the right bacteria on its roots to help fix your nitrogen problem. And I learned something else while researching it. I'm still a little bit too early to plant that out here. For a prepared seed bed here in Texas, A&M recommends planting clover roughly from late September through late October. I just saw crimson clover and thought, that sounds useful. Let's put it in the basket. And honestly, that's kind of what I love about all of this. Every single thing leads me to something else I didn't know. All right, let's get to the seedling update. I planted all of these plants directly sowed into the dirt back in March. And at some point after that, I started my first round of seeds, maybe near the end of June. And from that very first round of seeds I started, I have got 5 cantaloupes that are absolutely thriving, and they've officially outgrown their pots. So these need to be moved up today. I've also got several marigolds, 1 lone survivor of a pea plant, 9 broccoli plants, 7 cabbage plants, and 3 spinach plants that are literally hanging on for dear life. Oh yeah, and 1 zinnia. The alyssum, I think we can officially call it, all 6 are dead. I do need to think about what flowers or pollinator attractors I'm going to put in the fall garden, because I definitely want to keep including those. Uncle Gary started an entire tray of 36 celebrity tomatoes for me, but I don't think that they got enough light in the beginning. So I brought them home to see if I could baby them back to a life. Right now, there might be 4 or 6 that look like they may actually survive. My better boys are doing much better. 7 out of 12 are up, along with 4 of the 12 Roma plants and 5 of the 8 Independence Day tomatoes. The cool season seedlings are coming along too. I've got 6 of 12 spinach, 3 broccoli, 9 cabbage, 4 basil, and a couple of cosmos. I've also got okra coming up, 7 out of 8, and 1 jalapeno so far, and also a few squash plants. Some things, though, are still giving me absolutely nothing. The cilantro, the chives, 3 kinds of onions, and my gazanias, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. It's a flower, haven't made an appearance yet. And the 2 seeds I saved from that volunteer sunflower plant that sprouted up in the garden haven't sprouted either. Yesterday, I also started another round. Some romaine, crisp head, and iceberg lettuce, some parsley, cauliflower, and bell peppers. So now I'm just waiting to see what happens with those seeds. I'm beginning to realize that starting a garden from seed is basically equal parts science, optimism, and staring at dirt, waiting for something green to happen. But compared to where I started, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning what seeds need more light, what can handle the South Texas heat, what needs more consistent watering, and apparently which plants are determined to live despite me. Or to spite me. Might be both. I don't know. Anyhow, every time one of these little things actually makes it, it still feels like a win to me. When I look back at this first garden, I've made a lot of mistakes. I should have started earlier, first and foremost, way earlier. The spring garden was definitely an afterthought. I should have planted my corn, in a bigger group together instead of a long single row. My tomatoes needed more room. My tomato supports aren't anchored enough. I probably needed a heavier shade cloth. Some of my seedlings should have been handled differently. My deer perimeter fence needs more breathing room between the fence and the vegetables. And again, I still haven't built my compost pile. I'm sure there's still a whole list of other things that I don't even know I did wrong yet. But I also grew some food, a lot of cucumbers, a lot of green onions, a lot of Anaheim peppers, and about 15 tomatoes, which, considering the fact that I had 17 plants, I wouldn't definitely call that a success, but I made 15 tomatoes. And I was able to share all of these vegetables with my family and friends. I've watched seeds that were smaller than a sesame seed turn into a producing plant. And probably the biggest surprise of all is that I discovered that I genuinely love doing this. I love coming out here early. I love checking the plants. I love looking for insects. I love harvesting something I grew. I love putting my hands in this dirt. I love eating and sharing what I produce. And I even love figuring out why something did not work, because now I get another chance. The spring garden wasn't a test of I either passed or failed. It was a first lesson. And now I get to take everything it taught me and build the fall garden. So here is my question for you. For those of you who garden, what's one mistake you made early on that completely changed the way you garden? Tell me in the comments, because clearly I am still taking notes. Over the next several weeks, I'll show y'all more of the fall garden as these seedlings grow and we start putting everything into the ground. I'll also eventually take you through the entire fall garden plan, what I'm planting, where I'm planting it, and why. And somewhere in between all of that, I promise I'll eventually going to reach the end of that fence line. Thank y'all so much for continuing to follow along while I figure all of this out. If you're enjoying this journey, please like, comment, subscribe, follow, and share this episode with someone, anyone, who might enjoy learning right along beside me, or someone who might even get a chuckle out of my antics. As always, love y'all, and I'll see y'all next time. All right, my grandbabies are coming in today, so I got to get home and get everything ready for them. See y'all next week, guys. Bye-bye.